Go on.
Before we go, can we find out what that forecourt does behind you? Oh,
He's in the dark, baby.
Dungeon.
Hey, the camera from the camera from the 1920s will slowly adjust back to.
I know.
it's like
There
a
we go.
trailer, you have to shake him, get him
Yeah.
back to colour.
We're recording, baby. We're 5 seconds in.
Okay.
Hello,
Good, got 10
everybody.
more seconds.
This is a rebranded channel and a reattempt at trying to be YouTube famous.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. We're gonna take
Attempt number 2.
we're gonna change this channel into HCT finances. So previously we were nerds about 10 years ago, and we loved games, and we still do. But we're gonna attempt to be financial experts. But don't listen to us because we're not very good at it.
We're not giving financial advice. We're not giving.
We are
financial
not
advice.
giving financial advice, but we are giving our own personal opinion on finances. So, do you boys want to introduce yourselves?
You want to? You want to go first?
I'm Charlie.
That's Charlie.
And I'm Harley.
And I'm Todd. And we used to be a trio of RuneScape players. And we did use this channel previously for RuneScape videos, but now we're going to rebrand it, baby. So today's topic is credit cards. And we've all got an interest in money, boys, haven't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we love talking about money. It doesn't matter what topic it is, subtopic or anything like that. We just always get down. Everything comes down to money because it's a big topic in everybody's lives. So what we thought we'd do with this channel is kind of bring it kind of to a cool point where you guys can sit down, listen to us chatting about money, put your own inputs in, comment, etc., and stuff like that. So we've come up with a load of subtopics. We're going to go through them one by one, week by week, and credit cards is the one today. So has anybody got any personal experience with credit cards?
I suppose I got a bad one quite recent.
Oh dear.
But not too bad, but it nearly caught me out, which I'd like to think I'm quite hot on stuff, is that I got a credit card out and done a balance transfer, 0% on balance transfer. So I thought, oh, that's good, that's fine, because my interest was about to go up, but only for 3 months. And then the interest rate was high. So it was like 24% interest rate on it. But it didn't state that on sort of clearly. It was in the small print somewhere that I didn't read. But I nearly balance transferred it all over, and it would have cost me a few £100.
Oh.
And it was clearly stated on balance transfers and 12 months 0%, but it was only 3 months of 0% on the balance transfer, which it didn't state. So that's one thing you've got to watch out for.
Oh, bloody hell. Anything for you, Mr. Harley?
Oh, I'm not a massive fan of credit cards because I still don't think I 100% understand them.
Nice.
Right? So I use it, but I use it just for like petrol at the moment, or like day-to-day things. Because they say, don't they, use it for day-to-day things, small things, not go above 30%. But I just never feel in control when I have a credit card.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys feel the same.
I think, well, personally, my personal experience is I've just used a credit card for something. I won't say what. It's personal. But I've kind of maxed that credit card out, and then just like what Charlie said, I went and got myself a balance transfer, which is obviously, as you know, you transfer the balance in hope not to pay interest. So the particular offer that I was given was 0% interest for 31 months. And I was thinking, well, how does the credit card company make any money out of that? That's just surely a non-money maker for them. But then I thought, well, they give you this big limit. So the limit that I got offered was, well, again, I won't say, but it was a lot. So I was like, whoa, wow, that's nice. It's really, really nice. But then I thought, as soon as you've transferred the balance, and then they get you tied into thinking, well, you've got a big balance. Why don't you spend a little bit more money? And then that's where I figured that they catch you out, right? So you get this card, you then spend on it on top of the balance transfer that you made, and then the interest gets attached onto the top of the balance transfer that you did. And I think that's where it catches you out.
Could I just ask a question?
Yeah.
It's going to sound really stupid. What do you mean by balance transfer? Is it you just take that balance from the credit card and put it into a different pot?
Yeah. So one company it gives you a credit card. Let's say you're with Barclays, for example, and you've got a credit limit of £1,200. So you max that credit card out with whatever you want on it, and then you get charged. I think it's like 30% with Barclays. It's pretty crazy. So then that's a variable interest rate. That's not a fixed interest rate. And the variable part of it means that whatever the balance is, they charge you the interest on top of whatever the balance is. So if your balance then, or your credit limit then, increases to 1,500 quid, super rough maths, but let's just say they add an extra 80 quid for that month, and then your credit limit increases again, you max out again, then you're £100 for the next month. So your interest always increases depending on what your balance is. Whereas like with other credit loans and stuff like that, the company might just charge you a fixed rate. So the balance transfer aspect of it is to allow yourself to take one balance from one place with interest on it and remove it and put it into a new credit card where they don't charge you interest. And then the hope is that you then get that large amount of time to pay the credit card off and not pay any interest. But that's what I mean with that other card is like, I think when you start spending more money on the card, you then incur that interest. So.
I always think as well they're quite crafty with the time of it, because usually if you get something out in January, you sort of remember that next January that's going to come about. So it's 12 months or 24 months. So you always remember it, but they're always like 28 months or, like you said, 31 months, and you think, what? So it's going to be 2 years and 7 months. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to remember when it ends.
Yeah.
And I think unless you write it down, which nobody has a 3-year calendar,
No.
so it's a little bit like, and they don't remind you and stuff like that. And I think quite crafty in the way they go about it. So it's easy to fall short for the credit card company.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, it's the same with this one. It's 31-month credit card, right? And that's like 2 years and 9 months or something, in it. I've just done super rough months. 2 years 7 months. 2 years 7 months. Sorry, done super rough maths again. I'm not very good at maths, by the way.
That's why it's super and it's rough.
Yeah, it's super and it's rough, and I use a calculator every time. But yeah. So personal experience for me, so my family, or my mum and dad in particular, they always told me to get a card. Put, like what you said, Harley, is put your fuel or something on it per month, to start to build up your credit score, and then it gives you something for somebody to track you on, and that's why I got my first credit card anyway.
What about you, Winter? What was your family's kind of ethos around it?
Mine was exactly opposite. So that's quite interesting. My mum and dad always said you shouldn't have a credit card, really, because if you can't afford it, you shouldn't be buying it.
Yeah.
That was always their mentality on it. So, like, just say you wanted I don't know, I'm going to say a new car. There's a couple of grand. It was like, well, unless you've got a couple of grand in your bank, you can't afford a new car, so you don't buy one. So until you have the money, you spend what you have, not what you're going to get. But since sort of moving out and educating myself a little bit, I sort of think credit cards are a nice, if you are going to pay it, because there's some situations where you can save money by using a credit card, like on your insurance. I think if your insurance, sometimes it says like, oh, if you pay now, it's 800 quid, or if you pay over 12 months, it's 880 quid. So if you put that on a credit card, if you couldn't afford the 800 quid, you could pay it over 12 months on a credit card. So you would save a little bit of money. You could pay the full amount on a credit card and save yourself 80 quid, but then pay it monthly. So there is situations where you can save a bit of money. So I do think it's worth using. So
yeah, no,
what
I like
about
that.
you, huh?
My parents are quite similar to yours, Charlie. I think my dad was in the same thing, that if you couldn't afford it, you couldn't have it, and don't put yourself into debt, right? And funny enough, he had a credit card, but I guess they never saw it as, it's to build credit early on, right? Because effectively, why do we take out credit cards when we're a bit older? It's everyone says, well, if we want to get that property ladder, you need to show that you're trustworthy, and a credit card's one of the best tools to do that, right? And so therefore, you get a credit card. But it took me till I was probably 20, 26 to get a credit card. I just had a debit card, never had a credit card, so I never really understood them. I just thought, I don't need them. Why would I need them?
Yeah. It's
That was always my
it's a pretty fair point to make. Like, I feel like regardless of whether you were one side of the fence or the other in terms of how you built credit or anything like that. But for me personally, mum and dad were like, well, how are you going to get a mortgage? How are you going to get a car loan if you want to do any of those things without firstly building that credit? So my strict rules to myself always with credit cards was you buy just your fuel, or if you wanted a pair of shoes that month or something like that, you put your fuel in your shoes on, and as soon as you got paid, you then lump that amount off. And that was typically how I used them until now, when things have got more and more expensive. And I got less and less money. So yeah.
Oh,
But it's but hey, look, everybody's slightly different, and if people are watching now, put your personal experiences in the comment section below, because that's always a good one to kind of discuss. We'll be in the comment sections as well, replying, etc. But yeah, I think the main point of this video was to go through credit cards, introduction, especially for people who are like, you're turning 16, 17, 18. I believe you can only get a credit card in the UK when you're 18 anyway. But if you're turning 18, you're thinking about getting a credit card and you watch this video, hopefully we'll give you some inspiration, or, well, not inspiration, but some advice, hopefully. Woo. Don't say advice. Don't say advice. Don't say advice. It's just.
I'm not a financial advisor.
No, we are not a financial
that.
advisor. We are just opinionated people who like to spread our opinion. So I think that how this video is going to go, hopefully, is Harley's going to explain a little bit of an introduction to credit cards. We did some homework. I passed the homework around. I'm going to go through like sort of the emotional side of things with credit cards. How it affects people's stats and stuff like that. And then I think Charlie's going to go through some bits on how to potentially get yourself out of credit card debt. Again, it's not financial advice. It's just an opinion or / help. I don't know about the words. Tips. So Harley, do you want to start with the intro?
Yeah, sure. So when I was looking at credit cards, I guess I was just trying to check out the whys, like why credit cards, what do they do, what do they offer, how do companies utilize them, and what's the best way of utilizing the credit card, right? Because one of my main things is you get a credit card, so it builds credit score. Great, everyone knows that, I'd hope, or if you don't, now you do. However, you then get penalized by going too far into your credit card usage, which is what they call credit utilization. Now, supposedly between 30% and below is your sweet spot, right? And I guess they determine that by you keep within that, and your credit score will either maintain or go up. But if you go over,
sorry, Har,
go for it.
you're saying 30% of what? Sorry.
Sorry, so say you've got £1,000 or like of your credit usage. If you use 300% of that and stay within £300 of that and stay within that kind of ballpark, you don't almost get penalised, right? But if you go over, then they see it. And so I thought that was quite. I actually never knew that. I don't know if you guys did. If you knew there was kind of like a sweet spot to sit between.
I did not know that.
So on that then, if a credit card offers you, say, £5,000 or £10,000, is that saying you've got to try and keep £3,000 on the card, or is it better to get a card with a lesser limit?
Well, that's a good point, because I thought about that, because they're saying, well, say you had a really great credit score, and you said, "Oh, I have £10,000 credit card," or whatever they could go up to, right? They're in their head, I guess they look at it as, well, if you're not maxing out, you're good with money. You can only borrow what you can afford to pay back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you could afford to pay back 10 grand and it was 10 grand flat, it's in your head, you think, well, I've done my job, I paid it off. But they almost say, well, actually, no, you still just need to fall under that. And I looked it up in a few other places, and it all came to around 30% was kind of the sweet spot where you just kind of fall within always gaining credit score or maintaining. Anything above that was starting to hurt you. And I just thought it was quite strange, because it's almost like this catch-22, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're using it, and almost then you get penalised for using it. So it's quite.
They tempt you, don't they? Tempt you. You can have all this.
Yeah, I guess. And then maybe it's like a show of willpower, right? And then I guess it builds your history. And it kind of leads me on to the I guess, with when you want to go for a mortgage. I don't know, if you never had a credit card, what's the likelihood of you still being offered a mortgage if you never had a credit card?
I never had one when I got my mortgage.
Interesting. Okay.
So they said to me, "Oh, your credit score is, I'm going to say near enough perfect, but there's some points on it because I had a phone contract that classed as credit or some sort of credit experience because you have a phone contract and then you pay it off every
Yeah,
month. So that is some that goes towards your credit score, good or bad, depending if you pay it or not.
yeah.
And my mortgage advisor said to me, go and get a credit card out. And in 3 months' time, when all the solicitors go through and everything like that, they'll say, oh, that's fine. You have got a good credit score because if not, you've got sort of a grey spot and it could go against you. So he said, just get one out, put some little bits on it. So I sort of went and got one out, but I would have been able to get a mortgage with it just because I had a phone contract.
That's all right.
So
Yeah.
a phone contract's quite important.
Uh, well, it goes towards your credit score, but obviously it can go against your credit score if you don't pay it. So
Yeah.
And it's a history. I suppose they just want to see a history, don't they, of something being paid on time. It is kind of what they're looking for.
Yeah.
mm,
I'd say so. It's just going back to your point about the 30% limit thing. It's an affordability thing for everybody, right? You know, if you've got 1,500 quid on your credit card and you maxed it out, yeah, people are going to immediately look at you and say, well, you probably can't afford much more. So that's probably where that 30% means that you gain points on your credit score rather than actually losing points on your credit score, because
Yeah,
that is what it comes down to, right?
because I guess they're saying if you could just scrape by for 1,500 quid, you in what flip of the coin, you say, well, I paid it off, and here's the money. You think great, but what if an emergency came up?
Hmm.
Then all of a sudden you can't, and then I guess that's where it falls into, right? And that's why they can, I guess, month in month out, you're only using 30%, and you've got that overhead, and you're
Yeah.
not spending over that overhead. They see you as someone, I guess, more trustworthy with money, or someone who's a bit more, I don't know, slightly better with money.
Yeah. 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 I would say so.
Um, but I thought that was quite interesting. And another thing I found out, which I didn't know, is a lot of people buy online with their credit card, right? And apparently, something to do with Section 75 on Consumer Credit Act, you're effectively covered between £100 and £30,000 um, with a purchase that you buy online, whether if it's faulty, if it goes missing, and things like that. Your credit card company and I guess the supplier then liaise and say, okay, well, here's the money. A bit like how PayPal probably deal with things, right?
Yeah.
So I guess people use it for that extra security, which you might not get with a debit card.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you do get benefits, I suppose, as well as it being like it's watched, but you do get online additional benefits for
Yeah.
using it.
Yeah, definitely a safety and security aspect. I always use my credit card when it's like a holiday or something like that. So if it's
Yeah,
like a big purchase with a big amount, for example, I might not necessarily use the credit card to like pay it off, but I will use the credit card just for that initial purchase and that initial security on that website, just to make sure you, one, haven't been scammed, and two, you're just not putting your credit card details into a completely fraudulent website. So
yeah, because they can just lock it down, right? If someone takes your debit card, they can start spending within your bank, and it's like out, out, out. But
yeah,
if your credit card gets locked down and it's fraudulent, well, don't worry, they might take out the £1,500 or whatever it is you got maxed out in there,
yeah,
but it's technically it's not yours in the first place, so you don't
yeah,
take the fall for it. It gets bounced back, so that's quite nice in its own security. So I guess a credit card, like it's a tool, but you have to use it wisely because if you don't, you do get penalised. But if you do, well,
yeah,
actually, there's quite a few benefits that you could take advantage of.
mm, yeah.
Fair to say,
yeah,
wouldn't you say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the other. Go on, sorry.
No, no, no. Go on. Sorry, I was just going to say yeah. I just wondered if Charlie had any points to add to that at all.
Yeah, you got any points?
No, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty spot on there. Yeah, I think you can see why it's easy to get into credit card debt because effectively, if you didn't have any savings or any money in your bank, and somebody goes, "Well, here's £2,000," you think, "Oh, sweet, I can just spend that." And if you like buying stuff and you know you've got it there, that's why I think like cash, you can see it in your hands, can't you? You can see if you've got 20
Mm.
quid.
Yeah,
Whereas if it's just on a card, it's easy to beep, 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 and off you go. So
yeah,
I think credit cards sort of trick you and sort of you don't really realize how much you're spending.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the danger of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Shall I lead us into sort of tips and tricks to help us out of
yeah,
if you're sort of in the unfortunate sort of circumstance of credit card debt that you can hopefully these are just some little tips, maybe tricks or some things to consider when sort of trying to get out of that sort of, I guess, the vicious cycle of accruing interest, not being able to afford payments, and then it adds more, and you just can't sort of get out of that cycle. So some good things to sort of start with to consider is to write a list of all your credit card balances. So how much do you owe on every card, or what card you owe it on? What are the interest rates on those cards, and what are the minimum payments? So with those sort of facts, you can go, right, I owe X amount on this one, and that's going to cost me an extra £40 a month. I owe X amount on this one, that's 0%, so that's not very important to pay off immediately. Obviously, put that sort of second place, things like that. And then you can budget. So if you know your credit cards are going to cost you a certain amount, you can say, right, well, this week I'm not going to have a takeaway. I'm going to put the extra 20, 40 quid towards paying off my credit card, and aim to pay off one at a time. So if you have multiple credit cards, rank them in the order of which is accruing the most interest. And then if you can't do a balance transfer, or if you can't transfer that to a credit card that's got 0% interest, pay that one down as quick as possible. And the other ones, hopefully over time, you can pay them down. And then once you get used to paying that sort of 40 or extra £50 to pay down the amount, as soon as that's paid off, you've then got the minimum payment amount. Just say it's 40, 50 quid, plus you've been overpaying it by 50 quid. Use that to pay your next credit card straight away, because you're used to not having that money. As soon as you go a couple of months and you've got that money, you'll end up spending it again. I think we're all guilty of that. If you live to your means, if you get a pay rise, instantly you think, oh, I'm earning an extra £100, oh, I can spend an extra £100. Whereas if you say, right, I haven't got that money, it's good to allocate that to getting out of debt first. And then little goals are always good. So say, right, this year I want to pay off £1,000. That's £100 a month, or just less than that, and that's a good goal to get it paid off. That's good sort of budgeting ideas and stuff like that. It's good to write down everything you need to spend and everything you have spent, and work out what you actually need. There's sort of two ways to sort of look at paying off your credit card debt. So you can either pay the little ones off first, and then you go, right, well, that one's paid off, and then that's a little win, and everybody goes, well, I've done one, and it's motivation to keep going. Or you pay down the biggest ones that would take longer, but they're your biggest expense. So depending if you need that little bit of reassurance, or a little goal, or a little bit of a pat on the back, oh, I've paid one off, cut it up, have a little bonfire, burn it in your back garden, get rid of it, make yourself feel good. I always think a good one. And then consolidating them, quite a big one, but you have to walk a very careful line, because not all the debt consolidation is beneficial. So that means if you've got 3 credit cards, put them into one big credit card, and then pay that one monthly amount. But the flip side of that would be that you've then got 3 credit cards that you can spend on again. And I know if you're in that position, it's easy to start spending again. Now that one's paid off, well, I've got £1,000 limit on that one, or I'll buy myself a new one of these. So I think once you've paid them off, cut them up and get rid of them, and you can't spend on them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And any of you boys got any good tips that sort of missed there, or?
I think the point I would just add to that is there's what you've explained there is called either the snowball, where you roll the snowball and you make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So you start with the smallest one, and then you make the snowball bigger, and then you finish off with the biggest one.
Yeah.
Or
it's called avalanche, I thought.
I think that's the one where it's the other way around. So you start with the biggest one and you cover the biggest one, and then you drop it down onto the little one. Yeah. So
I knew it's a snowball. Yes,
it's great tips. I mean, that is the way to do it. But make sure you're either cutting it up, you're burning it on the bonfire, or whatever it is. Cut it up, but make sure you also tell the person that you have the credit card with that you're not using it anymore, so that they can deactivate the account, shut it down, and then it cannot be used. I know burning it and cutting it up does that anyway, but just in case you've put a subscription on there, for example, where that might affect your credit rating and you forgot about it. Let's say it's like I don't know, let's say it's a phone contract and you put it on there, and you've put it on that credit card, and it's £40 a month on that card, for example. Let's not let that affect your credit rating, so just make sure that you don't put any recurring payments on those credit cards that you cut up or burn on a bonfire. Anything for you to add there, Harley?
No, I was going to say the same point. It's all about like finance when it comes down to it, and especially with like even credit cards, right? It's the more boring it is, the better off you're generally doing.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's the small wins, right? There's especially if you've got a lot of. If I think we've all been there. I know I've been there. I've done a lot of silly things, and I've seen this mountain of like what I owe, and you think, well, where do I tackle it? What angle do I tackle it at? And I think if you do the small things, like you said, it's like anything, right? Every small thing you do builds up, right? And every time you get to that next level, and actually then it becomes a bigger, and you're building repetition, and you're building healthy repetition, which is tackling your debt. It's straightforward. That's what's annoying about a lot of this is it's really straightforward things, but it's the habit. You need to build the habit, and a good habit will get you really far. Just as a bad habit gets everyone the other opposite way, right? It's just the way it is, isn't it?
You start a marathon with one step, don't you? I think is the
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah. I think the
definitely.
point you made as well, Charlie, about the takeaways and that type of thing. If you've got a habit that you maybe do, maybe it's smoking, for example, you buy a pack of fags every week, or you buy a vape every week, for example, or maybe it's
fizzy
a
drinks is my
fizzy drinks, or maybe it's a beer on the way home from work. Can you deal without that? And like
What
if
driving?
drive.
That's what cup holders are for.
Nice. If it is that one thing and it's £5, times it by 5 over the work week, for example, and then you've got 25 quid extra to put against that credit card. So that's another way to look at it.
So, sort of on the flip side of that though, it's going to be a bit counterintuitive. Is I think give up all the things you like. I'll give up this and give up that. But say right at the end of the month, I'm going to treat myself to a pack of Dr. Peppers. Rather than having 10 a day, I'm going to have one at the end of the month. And then you're still feeding that bad habit. Like you've gone, well, I've worked, but I haven't had one for 5 days. I'm going to have one. If you smoke 20 bags a day, just say, I'm only going to have one at lunch today. And then that's you're still having it. So you're not going cold turkey. But then you'll find at the end of the month, you might go, I've gone a whole month. I don't think I need to have one. I always feel like if I do that, I get to the end of the month and I think, well, I've done so well this month. I don't want to break it now. I can go another month, and then that's what spurs you on to keep going, man. Because you're allowed it then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think we'll tackle budgeting and stuff like that anyway in a later episode. So that what we're kind of talking about comes into budgeting anyway, but obviously they come hand in hand, right? If you want to pay that credit card debt off, you've got a budget and you've got to set yourself a goal and set aside that money as well to pay that debt off. So yeah. Any more tips there, Charlie?
No, I think we've covered it all. Avoid adding new debt was another one. One we haven't touched on is increase your income, which is easier said than done. Or just earn more money. It isn't. It isn't as simple as that, and we're not going to make it simple as that. But I always think there's always something you can help out with. So, like, a family member could do with their garden being a bit of mowing to be done, and if you earn 20 quid, or if you earn a little bit of money here, there, and everywhere, pick up an extra shift at work. But I always think that would be really good to pay off your debt. But if you've already budgeted and you've cut back on a lot of things, do that extra shift or do that extra bit of hour, bit of labor work or something for a treat, because you've still got to enjoy your life. So I've done my 40 hours, but I've done an extra 5 hours this week, so I'm going to have a takeaway.
Yeah.
So you've already done your budget and stuff, and sometimes it's just that extra little bit because it hasn't come off of your total budget then because you've earned extra.
Yeah, definitely. I did personally look at extra ways to earn money, while you're sat at home and doing stuff. Maybe you could devote an hour to filling out surveys, for example. There are surveys that you can get paid for online, and you can fill those out for, I think it starts out at absolute pittance, but as you build up something, it becomes like, £10, £12, etc. And it also, as well, filling out surveys gives you vouchers for certain things. So if there's a certain shop that you like, you can keep filling out vouchers for that particular shop, and then you're not maybe necessarily spending your hard-earned money on that particular thing, but you're actually using those vouchers that you filled those surveys out for instead. So there's another way to do that. Harley, any bits you want to add to that, or
like Winter says, everyone always says, "Well, just go out and earn more."
Yeah.
And if it was that easy, you'd just go out and earn more. But actually, all that really means is you have your own lifestyle inflation. You might earn more, you'll just spend more. and then
Yeah.
you'll have a different cycle, but it's just more expensive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you get caught in another trap. You could be 100, you could be on 100 grand, and it's all well and good, but you live like you're on 100 grand, and all of a sudden you might not be able to afford it because you're living way beyond your means. Doesn't matter if you're on, 16 grand all the way up. Everyone's all relative, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys want me to do my points, or are you good there,
Yeah.
Charlie? You got your bits out?
Yeah.
So my sort of part of the video was more the emotional side, how credit card debt mainly can affect you, but also having a credit card as well, especially if you're quite an impulsive person. We've talked about all the spending and stuff like that. Maybe you've maxed that credit card out, and now maybe it's like, oh, you just keep looking at it every single day and you think it never goes down, etc., etc. So just a couple of things I wanted to touch on before I get into the maybe stats of credit cards is if you guys are suffering, maybe you've filled a credit card up and you don't know where to go, there are a couple of places you can go. So there's one, the Money Charity. So if you just Google search that, there's some tips and tricks on there, and Citizens Advice as well. There's lots of stuff on there. I'm pretty sure it's just under a heading called debt or credit card debt, but just go there. We're not here to give you the advice. We can give you tips, etc., like we have done here. But if you are struggling, go and get that help, and as well, make sure you talk to somebody about it, right? Because that the mental health side of things, it can get tough. It can feel like it's digging you deep, and everybody buries their head in the sand. But it doesn't get better if you don't talk about it, right? So just make sure you do that. The main thing I wanted to say to you guys is I didn't actually really know this, but roughly around about 15% of the UK adult population, around about 8.1 million people need debt advice, and that kind of strikes me as quite a lot of people actually, and I didn't realize that was the case. I work in a credit-based system, so I speak with people about credit all the time, and I've never put a number on it, I've never seen a number on it, and that type of thing, but I did not know that it was that much. Yeah. And then the other thing that I was gonna say, and this kind of struck me as quite kind of a bit shocking, really, because you would have thought this age group, and again, no offense at all, but 35 to 54 are the people most affected. I didn't know if that was sort of shocked you guys or not. If that was,
I would say that's a sweet spot.
Yeah, you think so?
A lot's changed. Yeah, I mean, if you look at especially how mortgage rates, right? If you were, say you got a mortgage, let's say 20, 30 years ago, right? So you'd be 50, wouldn't you, give or take? Yeah. You come out, you remortgage into a new property. They're a lot more money now, and the wages haven't increased as much. So for some people, it could be a bit of a shock, right?
Yeah.
You get quite comfortable, and prices have gone up quite a bit with inflation. Do you think, since?
Yeah.
Well,
Considering the last 4 or 5 years.
Did credit cards sort of not only come out sort of 20, 30 years ago? I don't know when the first one come out, because then that would be the sort of first generation, the first age range where they were quite new. So there would be no experience or no information about it. Maybe that's why that works.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make actually, is that education is probably lacking on that for that age group, where they maybe came into it, but for us now, our generation in particular and the generation below us, you can Google anything, and people are a lot more open to talking about it and stuff like that as well, aren't they? So
I suppose people want more these days, don't they? Than maybe what they've done prior. I think they did a survey where they went, I can't remember who it was, but they went to a bunch of countries and they asked the people to take a picture of everything that meant something to them, all their household goods. And that was in the 90s or the 80s or whatever. And there's not a lot. But if you were to compare that today, I bet there would be a hell of a lot of things that you have. And you see it on social media, right? You like they say, that try not to keep up with the Joneses. People do it subconsciously.
Yeah.
But actually, you can get yourself in a little bit of turmoil. And like you said, I think people aren't educated on finance as well as they maybe should have, and that can go for every generation. But I think you're right. Now you have the internet and you can just type in anything you want, right? Especially with finance, and there's something for someone. You might have not had that quite a few many years ago. To have that, you'd have to pick up a book, right, and go and do some reading, and that's That's not everyone's cup of tea, and I appreciate that. This is a lot more digestible, but any age group can get caught out on it. But yeah, I wouldn't say it surprises me. Like, for that age group, I'd say, yeah,
I,
it's about where I'd
I
expect.
just googled it, and 1966 was the first credit card. 1987, first debit card. So I'd have thought that was the other
Really?
way around. I thought you'd have had a debit then a credit.
I
That's
think
what it says.
that was
Yeah.
UK, that is.
I did listen to a book actually, and somebody will probably correct me on how wrong what I'm about to say is, but I listened to a book about how the two world wars kind of affected a lot of the economy. So where the governments were spending lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, the immediate thing was to try to bring people back to that economy was to give people credit on almost everything basically. So it was your sofas, it was your TVs, it was your cars, it was all that type of stuff. Now for our generation now it's all electronic payments, right? But can you imagine back then trying to track, Mr. Jones and his sofa and how many payments he had left on it and stuff like that, all on paper ledgers?
Uh,
Must
I
have been a
think
pain in the ass.
America credit cards after the Second World War was like massive. 'Cause they reckon all the guys come back
Yeah,
after the war and they wanted to build homes and build a family and everything like that. So they had to build all the stuff or buy all the stuff to go in it. So
yeah.
they loaded themselves up with that
Oh, cool.
effectively.
I didn't just dream that then. That is good.
Uh,
I did actually listen to that from somewhere. And just on my point, the fact that it shocked me that 35 to 54, I thought that was going to be a younger age range only because people will typically do more. I shouldn't say stupid because it's not probably not the right word, but when you get a credit card and you're younger, you get the credit card, right, max it out, let's go, let's buy everything, blah 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 blah, and then you might not be inclined to actually pay that credit card back. So I think that's what I meant by it. I was shocked about the age range. I thought that would be like, you're 24 to 27 or you're 18 to 24, kind of your old people. So good thing about picking up the keeping up with the Joneses as well, Hardy, because I actually wrote that down. I thought that's a key point for a lot of people nowadays. Is somebody sees what somebody else has and they immediately feel like they have to copy that mentality as well. Just one final point that I'll bring up and shocked me again as well, but the average amount of debt per household in the UK is 2.5 grand.
Cool.
So I thought that was obviously disincluding mortgages and stuff like that. That's kind
I
of a
was going to say,
typical
not
one.
including
No,
mortgages.
no. So that is just general commercial debt, which I thought was quite interesting as well. So, yeah,
Is that is that
Go-
meaning like if you were to go buy a sofa, DFS, like, and you got it on X amount of months? Is that what that means as well? With that,
yeah. I
not
think
just credit card.
I think so. I think what they're trying to entail there is anything that you would put onto a physical credit card where you can't afford it for that month. Let's say I don't know, the food shop might go on the credit card 1 month because you didn't budget enough for that. So I think that's what that's trying to say.
Quite high, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And again, same thing for me in my job. Like, we've got to go for expenditure with certain people, and a lot of people are paying minimums on credit cards as well, which I always found was quite shocking information. Rather than trying to get that amount down or that credit card amount down by paying a higher amount, that is something as well that kind of shocked me. So
That's funny you should say that, because in one of my things that I was reading up on, what kept on coming up was just make sure you always pay the bare minimum or the minimum for your credit card to
yeah,
keep you in a
At
swing.
least
That
the
came up,
minimum, isn't it?
at least the minimum.
yeah,
And I think people get trapped in their head. They're thinking, well, as long as I pay the bare, like, well, at least the minimum, they're going to
yeah,
be off my back and I'm still going to be good. And it's
yeah.
almost like the impending doom's coming, but as long as they're having a little bit every
Yeah.
month, I'm okay. And again, it's that culture that's almost bred on it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you work it out for certain people, and it's like you're paying the minimum, but you're getting attacked with, like, let's say the minimum's 50 quid. You're getting attacked with £85 worth of interest in that month. So if you pay 50 and then you get attacked with 85, you're never going to pay that credit card off, right? That's just going to continuously mount up over and over again, and you're never ever going to get rid of that debt. So very important to check that out and make sure that you don't completely screw yourself. Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, I think that's pretty much it there, guys. We're up to 39 minutes. Look at us.
Oh my, we've been yakking.
We've been yakking. Do we
But
want to?
before we
Hey guys, we never actually got round to doing like a proper outro or slash intro, so here I am just doing the outro. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching or listening. We'll be doing this both on YouTube and as a podcast sort of thing. So yeah, thank you for that. And if you guys are interested in getting yourself subscribed or following the channel, then give us a shout there, and be sure to save a little comment for your next sort of topic that you want us to talk about.